When our corner of the galaxy came across humanity, they made no more of an impact than any other first contact. It was all gasps and shocks at their alien form, along with blind curiosity as to what they were like. They responded with a bit more enthusiasm than we did. It was the first time they had encountered an intelligent alien species in 200 years of exploration. They were so eager to integrate themselves into our community. It was kinda cute. Of course, it wasn't long before they became involved in an armed conflict. One of their allies and close trading partners had been attacked, so, true to their word, humanity rushed to their aid. They moved so quickly to the allies' border it took the rest of the empires a moment to realize where the human fleets actually were. Everyone spectating the conflict looked within human borders, or the borders between humanity and their allies, not the front line. Issues began forming soon after, however. Human fleets would often overextend, leaving themselves vulnerable to being cut off and eliminated. Everyone chalked this up to the new species being overeager to prove themselves, to make sure everyone knew they had an impact. Months went by and this kept happening, and the rumors began spreading. Humanity was getting annoyed with its allies. Often the admirals and generals would end up in shouting matches with their non-human peers about not following up on the plans laid before them, or so the rumors went. The rumors weren't helped by the media. The war journalists liked to say that humanity would move too quickly for either their allies or enemies to react. They were a goldmine of headlines. Humanity makes daring push to industrial world. Human ships spotted deep behind enemy lines, and human fleet surrounds core shipyard were frequent headlines, sometimes followed by the likes of human ships make a hasty retreat to escape encirclement, or human ships run blockade to return to friendly lines. The other species then decided to look into humanity's tactics. Maybe they had historically been hit-and-run specialists, and brought this mentality to their space combat. That was not the case. It was in the toolbox, but they used it while on the back foot to stem the tide of hostile forces. The question lingered for decades, until a human admiral retired due to old age. Everyone was shocked by this. It had been 2 decades since the war started, and an admiral was retiring due to old age. Maybe they were the last of the old guard, and this was an isolated event. 3 years later, another one retired, and another after 2 more years. Then the media jumped on this. Human high command no longer invested in war, or other things to that effect. The humans were confused by this. Then some ensign on the deck of some ship said, maybe they don't live as long. So an investigation was launched, and found that humans only lived to around 100. They had already spent 1/5 of their lives fighting this war. No wonder their high commander was retiring. They were past their prime. And after that, it all clicked into place. Humans weren't overeager. They were on a much shorter time limit than the rest of us. Their bodies degraded faster, and their minds often followed suit. Modern medicine could do much to slow this process, but it was inevitable. At some point within 120 years, if the human was lucky. Most intelligent races engaged in this war could live to 300, with some reaching 500. What had been a drop in the bucket to us had been a significant investment for humanity. It also explained why they moved so fast and always went for a killing blow. They didn't have time to waste on a century-long war. They needed the war to end so they could rebuild a better world for their children. After that fact was discovered, human allies fully adopted their tactics. Instead of the attrition warfare everyone had grown used to and settled into, they transitioned into humanity's doctrine and saw great success. The war ended soon after, with border concessions, war reparations, and little else. The status quo would remain. And then the armchair historians settled in to break down the war from their offices, while the empires began the long process of rebuilding. Humanity did the same, but found themselves done far before anyone else, and soon enough a new generation had stepped in to replace the old. It was then we experienced what humanity's short lifespan meant in its entirety. A sudden spike in militaristic rhetoric surged through human systems, and they began building more and more ships while the empires of old kept rebuilding from the last war. No one was quite sure if humanity was going to declare war, or simply came to the conclusion that they were under-equipped to handle themselves in war. We would never find out because, about a decade later, a new rhetoric of economic stability came to the forefront, and they began developing trade routes and expanding their economic sector. Decade after decade, humanity's goal changed, making the other races uncomfortable. The venerable of each species had lost track of the number of things humans did. New governments came and went time and time again, so much so it was difficult for schools to explain just what humanity was on a social level. Were they warmongers? A bastion of peace? Great traders? It changed too often for humanity to develop a reputation in this community. And then their ships. They move so fast. The engines on those things were like nothing any species has seen before. It seemed to everyone but the humans that their ships were designed around speed, and to hear the humans call their ships slow was baffling. Time and time again they would surprise with the sheer speed at which they did things. Humans would fall in love so quickly, and then fall out before the decade was out. And in that time they would have 2 kids, buy a house and get married. It became a joke that you could predict your own future by looking at a day in the life of a human. All of this because they lived such short lives. It has been 300 years since humanity had joined the rest of us. In those 300 years, they have gone through 7 once-in-a-lifetime recessions, 8 economic booms, 4 periods of intense militarization, and 2 demilitarizations, along with 9 wars, 3 of which they started, the other 6 are still going on today. The story of humanity promises to be exciting and long.